views and opinions expressed on Explorers Secrets of the Truth or that of their guests or contributors are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. All information on Explorers Secrets of the Truth is provided in good faith. However, we make no representation or warranty of any kind, express or implied, regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of any information on this talk show or website.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good evening, and welcome to Explorers Secrets of the Truth, episode 67. Tonight's topic is cursed movies. Tonight, as always, I'm joined by my best friend and co-host, Les Cabbage. How are you doing this evening, Les?
Awesome, buddy. How about you?
Doing pretty good. So
That's good.
Let's tell the audience where they can reach us.
Yes, because that is very important for those that are tuning in. You could reach us on YouTube, where we go live, which we're going live there tonight. Hopefully that the feed is actually live, because we have a tendency to get dropped on either Facebook or YouTube, and that's the other location is on Facebook. You could reach us live on Facebook as well at Explorers Seekers of the Truth. While the show is live, if you comment underneath the show, we should be able to see it on the back end in the interface that we use, and we should be able to reply to you live during the show. You can find us on X, or formerly known as Twitter, at Explorers Group. On our website, which I have to do a lot of updating to the website, but it is explorersgroup.com. So Facebook, YouTube, Twitter or X, and our website, explorersgroup.com, are the many places. Hey, Cindy. All right. So we got one comment that came in from Facebook. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight, Cindy. We appreciate it. So that's it. That's where you could reach us.
So tonight we'll be talking about cursed movies and the people who are affected by them.
Yeah, well, before you go on, Chad and I were talking about this. Actually, Chad got in touch with me a few weeks ago about this topic, and we went on at great length. I think it was like a 2.5 hour long phone conversation that we were talking about this, and I was psyched. So I hope tonight's show is just as exciting as it was for when he and I were first talking about it, which I think it will be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Sorry. Yeah.
Otherwise, we really start taping the phone conversations and just putting them out.
Yeah. We should start calling it like Crypto Coffee Talk, and then start doing our behind the scenes phone conversations that we have off air, and maybe we'll start a Patreon for those who'd want to tune in for that. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you guys think that'd be a good idea, if you'd want to hear our behind the scenes conversations, because they're a lot more in depth and I'd say a little bit more weird than what we do in our live show.
Yeah, we probably have to self-edit a few things that we do say.
Yeah, for sure. But, we get in trouble.
So a lot of people know like the movie The Exorcist. And there's one really creepy like part of The Exorcist that isn't necessarily in the film. It's not a scary part of the movie. But there was a gentleman by the name of Paul Batson who appeared as the radiology technician in the scene from the movie, the original in 1973. In 79, Batson was convicted of murder of a film industry journalist, Addison Verrill. And he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and then he was released on parole in 2003. But Batson was actually also believed to be the bag murderer. which for people who don't know the bag murderer story, it was a series of unsolved slayings of gay men in Manhattan. And it went on, if you've ever seen the movie Cruising with Al Pacino.
I have not.
Okay. Well, the movie is Al Pacino plays an undercover cop who goes into the leather subculture bars in New York during I think it was like based in the 70s. And he's actually
kind of like the bar that was parodied in Police Academy, the Blue Oyster Bar.
Yes, very much so. Right. But he goes as an undercover cop trying to find this murderer. Well, this Batson is actually believed to have been the murderer. The only problem is they couldn't get enough evidence to tie him to these murders.
Okay.
But the director, William Friedkin, who directed, I believe, he directed The Exorcist, also directed the movie Cruising in 1980. So
interesting.
That's not the only like strange story with The Exorcist, but I thought that was a kind of a good entry point. The Exorcist, I mean, a lot of people know, like the movie set caught on fire, all except for the bedroom they used for Regan's bedroom. The other stories of like at the filming or at the premiere in Italy, the theater sat between two churches, and the one church was over 400 years old. Lightning hit the crucifix on top of the church and it fell off and almost killed people.
Jesus.
So I think that's kind of overly done when it comes to this kind of stuff. A lot of people have talked about The Exorcist and the curses that go along with it.
It is so good though. So for those who don't know about that, look it up for sure. But that's not one that we're going to be covering tonight, like Chad said. But tonight we wanted to start with a relatively well-known example of a cursed movie, so everyone remembers the movie Poltergeist. This was released in 1982. The original Poltergeist was directed by Toby Hooper, I guess. Hooper. I guess. Yeah, Hooper. And like our buddy Josh Hooper. And was produced by Spielberg. And it was an instant success. Of course, if you haven't seen The Poltergeist, please go see it. It's phenomenal. And it is considered to be a masterpiece of the American horror cinema. And the film focuses on the Freelings, a middle-class family led by youthful, dashing Craig T. Nelson, which he was maybe some people, I don't know, this might be dating me as well, but he was in the TV show Coach. What was he in recently? I think he was in the movie The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. He was the dad. I don't know.
I don't know.
But he was the dad in that movie. Yeah, it's like a chick flick. He whose life was upturned when a number of paranormal and vicious events occurred in their California home, and their daughter, Carol Ann, is abducted through the bedroom closet by a group of ghosts who are under the control of a monster demon called the Beast.
Yeah.
Which is pretty creepy.
It was a great movie too.
Oh,
now, why do people say this movie's cursed? Really comes down to the death of 4 cast members that happened soon after the film. Well, soon after the first 2 films were released, or around in between.
Yeah,
and of course, these are all very tragic deaths, and we do want to be respectful about talking about them.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the Carol Ann, who is played by Heather O'Rourke. And of course, she's the focal point, like Les said, of the movie. She was only 6 when that movie was released,
which is kind of crazy to think about, because that movie, now granted, I mean, I'm sure things are completely different behind the scenes where it's not, I mean, obviously there's scary stuff on set and everything like that, but it's more controlled, I guess. But I would imagine that at 6 years old with a lot of this stuff, especially having to act in a lot of those parts, that had to be terrifying and really like do some psychological damage.
Yeah. It's got to be I mean, I understand there are laws and limits to what child actors can actually be exposed to, but yeah, I mean, it's still, even if you're not exposed directly to some of it, it's got to be creepy to know, like, oh, there's going to be a light in this closet, but when in the movie, when you look into the closet, there's a face in there or something,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
where when she maybe was doing the role, she's just looking at a light in the closet and there's nothing there, and they're like, okay, act scared when the light comes on.
yeah,
But
yeah.
as that goes, definitely would be kind of creepy.
Hmm.
But if you remember her, she was that little stark-haired blonde girl, kind of like a little doll.
Oh,
She had
she's
those,
adorable.
yeah, she had those
Adorable.
big inquisitive eyes, and
Hmm.
you know, the sad thing is she was actually misdiagnosed with Crohn's disease in 1987, and the following year when she fell ill, her symptoms were related to the flu, but she actually suffered cardiac arrest a few days after being treated for the flu,
Mm.
and had to be airlifted to a children's hospital in San Diego. And she actually passed away during an operation. She actually had a bowel obstruction, which they had misdiagnosed as Crohn's.
Mm.
And, you know, it's very sad to think, a misdiagnosis on a girl who at the time might have been 7 or 8,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
but
heartbreaking.
yeah, it might have actually been some congenital intestinal abnormalities. That's
Hmm.
one of the theories that kind of have been put out there later, that like it was a genetic condition, and you know even with proper treatment she might not have had a long life. But
Yeah,
again, she passed away very, very young. And
yeah. She
then
was so cute.
yeah, and I mean, for a 6-year old to play in that movie, I don't, I've never watched any behind the scenes things on it, but she could act for a 6-year old and convey like terror and
Oh
like
yeah,
just childlike innocence in that. I mean, she was a child, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
like,
you're right. But how do you get a child to convey that? You're right. Oh my god, she
yeah,
nailed it.
yeah, I mean, it was
That'd
just,
be like Kaylee,
yeah,
my daughter. You know what I mean? Trying to do that. Oh my god.
yeah. So I mean, like, you have definitely what would have maybe been a promising career if she, doesn't get pigeonholed into the she's the poltergeist girl, much like
Yeah, yeah,
um Linda Blair kind of got pigeonholed into the whole being Reagan from the
yeah. From The Exorcist. Yeah,
Exorcist. But
yeah. Which phenomenal acting in that as well too.
yeah, and I think she was like 15 or
Yeah, yeah. She was
13
pretty
at the
young.
time.
Yeah, I think she
Yeah,
might have been younger because I think she was 15 in the follow up where she was in like that laboratory or something like
yeah,
that. You know? Yeah.
yeah. I think, yeah, she was probably about 13 in the original.
Hmm.
But then you also come to Dominique Dunn, who's also in the movie. She played the older sister,
Hmm.
Dana,
Yep.
in that movie. And of course, in 1982, she was separated from her partner, John Sweeney. And in November of that year, he shows up at her house pleading for her to take him back. And basically, they get into a domestic. She refuses. Sweeney grabs her around the neck and chokes her until she's unconscious, and then left her to die in her Hollywood home right in the driveway.
Oh my god.
And he was only sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, but was released after 3 years and 7 months.
What? How is that
Uh,
even possible?
Probably manslaughter, being involuntary manslaughter at like 6.5 years. It's a crime of passion. So he probably pled that, it was a heat of the moment. It wasn't planned out that way. So
Temporary insanity.
yeah, he walks on that. I
God,
mean,
that's fucked up.
if it wasn't for Francis Scott Key's grandson, I mean,
What do you mean?
he was the first one to ever do it. Killed
Oh
his
really?
wife, killed his wife, and I believe her lover, and then pled temporary insanity, which brought about the charge of manslaughter. He also is responsible for the gate that's around the cemetery at Gettysburg, at the National Cemetery,
Hmm.
which, odd tidbit, is supposedly the same fence that he actually killed the lover up against. And actually, he had it transferred up there. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Look, that's a weird one, but yeah, that's supposedly the story is that gate is actually, or that fence is actually part of it, is the spot where nobody knows which part, but they
Yeah,
say
yeah.
it's the gate of the fence.
That's
Then you have
crazy.
people like Julian Beck and William Sampson. They were two other
Mhm.
cast members who had unfortunate deaths. Now they're not as, they were a little bit older and stuff like that, so it's not
Mhm.
as unexpected or mysterious. Um, Julian Beck played the evil preacher Kane from the second Poltergeist.
Dude, that guy still, like, looking back on that old man still gives me the chills. Like, he was freaky, period.
Yeah,
Like, you couldn't have get a better person to play that role.
yeah, and actually was diagnosed with stomach cancer, which shortly after they finished the second movie is when he passed away.
That's unfortunate.
And then William Sampson, who played Taylor, the Native American shaman,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he died undergoing a heart and lung transplant.
Jesus.
But again, a heart and lung transplant has a very slim survival rate.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So, two of the older cast members, one has stomach cancer, one dies in a very risky surgery. So tragic, but not necessarily like
Oh,
unexpected.
that's so weird. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, you wouldn't expect a
Some of the other
6-year-old to have
strange
some
things.
sort of an issue like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Or a domestic, violence that turns into a,
Right.
homicide.
Yeah, those were kind of what do you call them? Like when a person dies before their time, kind of thing, where and there'd be like a residual haunting. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
But still, it's still weird, even though those guys were older and stuff like that. I mean, to have a heart and lung transplant, like, how does that happen? I wonder. I'm curious. Did did the need for that arise during and after the time of the movie, or was this something predating the movie that was like a almost like a hereditary condition? And even with the stomach cancer with the older gentleman who played the creepy pastor or preacher, did that happen during the time of the movie and thereafter, or was that stomach cancer something that had been known about? And because he was super skinny in that movie, so it almost kind of like looked like something was wrong, you know what I mean, for lack of
Mhm.
better terms.
Well, I mean, if he dying shortly after the movie was completed, I assume maybe he was
Battling it.
battling it at the time and it was kind of his final work.
Yeah.
You see a lot of these actors go out and do that last film where you know, you can see it in their face and you can see it in the way they move that there's something wrong, but they're doing that last masterpiece to be remembered. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
even
mean, what
like,
a way to go.
yeah,
Jeez.
like Bela Lugosi and some other actors over the years.
Yeah.
They just, you could see something wasn't right. I mean, maybe at the time wasn't discussed in public.
Mhm.
A very different time where there's not social media where everybody's commenting
Knows
about,
everybody's
you
business. Yeah.
know. Well, I mean, and look at the young man who played in the Black Panther.
Oh, Chadwick Boseman, I think his name was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he went from super in shape to all of a sudden looking thin, and everybody was like, "Oh, he must be on drugs, or he must be this or that."
Yeah.
And the poor
Little
guy
do they know
was,
the poor guy. Yeah.
yeah, is dying, but he's putting on a brave face and going out in public.
Yeah. Poor
So
guy.
to
And he
continue
played
on.
that part really well too, by the
Oh
way.
yeah, the sad one is when they do that interview where he says, "I'll be dead," so I don't know what's going on in the next movie.
Yeah. God, that
And people
sucks.
didn't realize, like, he was telling them, like, "No, I'll be dead. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't be alive." But, so let's get off the sad stuff here.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so there's other strange things that kinda happened on set, and kind of creepy legends with the film franchise. Jo Beth Williams, who had played the mom in the first 2 films,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a claim, I don't know how substantial it really is, claimed that director Spielberg insisted on using actual human skeletons as props in an attempt to save money. At the time, they were way cheaper than plastic skeletons. Now, this claim has never been verified.
That was the scene at towards the end when she was stuck in the hole that they were digging for the swimming pool, and they were the body. Yeah. Oh, the bodies were coming up from underneath the ground as the water filled up that pool. And for those who haven't seen it, the coffins were surfacing through the wet ground, and then they were popping up as the mom was stuck in the water. Oh, that was a creepy scene. And if that was real, because imagine like that water's going in your mouth.
Yeah,
so you're getting that dead body water in your mouth.
Well, what's the line from the movie? You move the headstones, not the bodies.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God.
That was my Craig T. Nelson. I hope you liked it.
That was beautiful. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I want to watch this movie again now.
Yeah, I probably should go back and watch some of these at some point. But, finally, in kind of like another creepy little facet of this whole story was Samson, who we had mentioned earlier, who had passed away during the heart and lung transplant. He did a real life authentic exorcism.
Oh, wow.
On the film set after they wrapped up the one night. So, of course, that, kind of creeps out people on the set and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't being filmed. He just kind of broke out his gear, and, he had real life medicine man training and started going into this, exorcism. So, he recognized something about what was around them, or
noticed something,
trying to get rid of it.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I definitely want to watch this again, because the Poltergeist, just from beginning to end, just draws you in, and the special effects for a movie of that time, I still think were phenomenal. Yeah. Like when the beast or whatever it was, that creature that was coming out of the closet and stuff, like, oh my God, that was so good. Now, if I go back and watch it again, it's probably gonna be like, what the hell was I saying?
I'm going to broach this with kid gloves. The fact that the thing about the movie the thing that you remember most about the special effects is something coming out of the closet. I'm just letting it at that.
Well, watch the movie, ladies and gentlemen. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
So now,
Cindy has a question here. Says, do you think that when movies... I'm going to pop it up so I can read it better. Do you think that when movies making or recreating something like horror films, movies can attract evil spirits towards the set and people? I would say, yeah. I mean, it seems to be in a lot of cases that a lot of these films that we're going to be talking about tonight, and some others, I think we mentioned in one of the past shows about The Conjuring. Even that movie. Go ahead. You knew more about it.
Yeah, the Conjuring movie was filmed, I believe it was like in Georgia at a house. Of course, it's not filmed at the original house there, but the film set had issues once the Perron family came to the set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had, like, I think a light thing fall and almost kill somebody. They had like weird audio issues, like cameras malfunctioning, and they said it was basically just when the Perron family was there and kind of like talking to the director and stuff like that, or talking to the cast members and stuff like that, stuff would like fall behind people, like things that had been rigged up for weeks all of a sudden just would come crashing down, or they'd go to like light the set and the lights wouldn't work, or the power would go out where they were filming. So,
didn't you say something along the lines when the actual family members were writing sort of memoir-esque parts for the script, like one would write something and they wouldn't communicate with the other one, and then that other one would almost like pick up exactly where the other one left off, and it was almost like they were continuing on each other's thought process.
Yeah, actually, when I can't remember the Perone daughter who actually like formulated the idea of writing the book. I skipping, and might have been Andrea Perone. She had like started the idea and kind of got her sisters involved in it, and they were writing, like, they were all in different parts of the country, and they would like email her the stories that they were like, that they could remember, or things that happened to them and stuff like that. And what it was like one sister would write the story of like something flying across the room. Well, one of the other sisters would then a day or two later email her story part in, but it would be the same story, talking to each other about what they were writing. They were just like, hey, I thought of this story from when we were kids, but it was like they were writing it from their perspectives each, but almost like simultaneously writing it without communicating what one another were writing about. So yeah, a lot of the book that became, used to make the Conjuring plot, storyline comes from them kind of just, there's a term for it, but I can't remember what it is, but basically writing the same things without connectives. And it was just like each one was writing the story from their perspective, but they were writing the same stories around the same time within a couple days of each other.
Almost like a telepathic kind of thing, like a telepathy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a term like, where like two people opposite ends of the country write the same joke, but never heard the other one do or start the joke, and they both write the similar joke. There's a term for it, but
almost like a doppelganger, but not a doppelganger.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, along the theory lines of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't in communication directly, but they were writing like point of view stories, but they were the same events that were popping in their heads at the same time within a day or two. She'd get from one sister her point of view on it, and another sister correlating from their point of view what happened.
Yeah.
And confirming stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went into even that, filming and all that. And there's many, many films that quote unquote would qualify as cursed films.
Yeah. We talked about a couple, or at least that one with Cursed Objects show.
Yeah. So let's get on to the next movie.
Yes.
The Omen.
Yeah, the plot of the film is relatively straightforward. It's a baby boy is taken by a diplomat, and his wife turns out to be the Antichrist, and all manner of death and misfortunes surround him.
I'm doing this for you, Damien. That's the only part of that movie I remember, honestly.
Yeah, I know. That was good.
Reminds me of a few of my birthday parties, but okay. Not as lavish, but somebody always committing suicide. So, you like, sorry.
No, sorry.
In this you have suicides, lightning strikes, plane crashes, bombings that all curse the production of the movie The Omen. Jesus. And this kind of leaves this very eerie trail of tragic events, to the point even the animals on set had strange moments.
Yeah, the most tragic parallel event was the real-life decapitation of Liz Moore, which mirrored a similar scene actually in the film.
Yeah, I think we will kind of get a little more into that as we go. So the tale begins in September of 1975 when the lead actor in the movie, Gregory Peck, was flying to London. And during his flight, the plane was struck by lightning.
Oh my God.
Now, it is odd, but it isn't unheard of. It is something that happens occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, shortly after that, executive producer Mace Newfield,
Mm-hmm.
the plane he was on en route to Los Angeles to do some press work for the movie was also struck by lightning.
My God.
It gets better. Then the writer David Seltzer's plane was also struck by lightning.
Three's a charm.
And while filming a scene in Rome, lightning nearly missed striking the producer Harvey Bernard.
Wow.
Four.
Of the top, like the key players of this screenplay.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, like planes getting struck by lightning, like we said, odd, but does happen.
Yeah, but for three of them.
Three of them, plane rides almost became deadly. Now, the producer is filming a scene in Rome and almost gets hit, like, while just shooting a scene.
That is, you
There's something
can't,
to
like,
that.
yeah, you can't just write that one off.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what do they say? Your chances of winning the lottery or getting struck by lightning is better than winning the lottery, or vice versa, or something like that.
The odds of you getting struck by lightning is better than the odds of you winning the lottery.
Yeah. But still, and that's still like worse than 1 in a million odds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Talk about the animals, though. That's the part that I thought was really cool.
Okay. So while filming, there's several animals that are involved in the movie. And like the Rottweilers that are the hellhounds that are sent to protect Damien.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are all very trained movie dogs who, never really caused problems until the filming of this movie. And they, on several occasions, would attack their trainers and even seriously injured one of the stunt people, Terry Walsh, despite his preparation. So I guess he probably had a sleeve under a coat. And I think the dog actually attacked the other arm.
Jeez.
Yeah. So then you also got, there's a scene where they're driving Damien and the Kathy Thorne, who's Leah Reminick in the movie, and Harvey Spencer Stevens. So they're in the car driving through the safari park. Well, there was baboons that were supposed to be in the scene, but the actual reaction you see in the movie is a real reaction because the baboons weren't supposed to attack them. They were just supposed to become agitated as they were driving by. In the movie, these baboons just went nuts and attacked the car. Yeah. So the actual Reminick's response is an actual response of terror. Because they're baboons. They can be
super dangerous. Jesus, their canines are like 4 inches long.
Yeah, so her reaction on film is like genuine terror. It's not a, oh my God, great acting job. No, that's real life. Like, this ain't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, this isn't the scene, but all of a sudden they're stuck and they can't get the baboons back. They're going nuts and they're trying to attack them through the car.
Oh my God.
So
that can't be coincidence.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you got dogs who are trained, for scenes in this. I mean, you got to figure these dogs. I've worked with dogs. I mean, I know how well trained they can be. Trained to do certain things, and then all of a sudden to completely disregard what they've been doing 100 times and being rewarded for. To all of a sudden, you get them on film and they attack the stuntman instead of just biting him on the sleeved arm, which he was probably feeding to the dogs in the scene, and they took his other arm. So Now, that's not the only animal stuff that goes on in this movie. Day after filming some of the zoo scenes,
Mm-hmm.
the zookeeper who had worked on the movie, like helping with the animals and stuff like that, he was killed by one of the lions at the zoo.
What?
Yeah. It was the day after they had wrapped filming in the zoo, and I guess he was neither going in to feed or they were doing something to move him around or something like that. And the lions just attacked him. And this guy was a professional zookeeper, like had worked with these lions. He wasn't just for the movie, he was the zoo guy. And these lions had never, no, I mean, of course they're lions. They're doing what lions do, but they had never shown aggression like this before. So they ended up attacking him.
Interesting. Cindy raises another good question here. Do you think animals are more susceptible to evil spirits entering or controlling them than humans? I would probably say yes. I mean, I don't know about necessarily being possessed and controlled by them, but I definitely would say that animals are far more sensitive to the paranormal than we are. I think they're kind of on a different plane than we are with what they could see and what they could sense. It's funny too that we're talking about this because I've been, and I was telling you, Chad, the other day that I've been hooked on those YouTube channels with like the just strange videos and stuff like that. And one of them that I was watching last night, and I will admit, I was watching them by myself while everybody else was sleeping, and I kept hearing stuff in the kitchen. I slumped down on my sofa, had my hoodie up and everything. I was like, "Oh God, I hope nobody comes down and sees me like this." But
did you have the blanket over your head?
Almost. But and it was funny too because I was watching my dog to see if she would react to any of these noises, and she didn't. So I'm like, all right, it's probably just the pipes or something. But the YouTube channel that I was watching, I think it was like a compilation of scariest videos of 2021 or something like that, and it was a lot of the videos were people's dogs and cats and stuff reacting to things that were caught on CCTV or whatever, to closed circuit television or
security cameras.
Yeah, security cameras. Yeah. And so a lot of these animals were going like crazy, and the people that were either involved in them were like, "Oh, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" And the dogs were, I mean, the one was like a pit bull, and he was like barking down a dark hallway, and the hair was standing up straight down from like neck to tail and swirling around the bed going crazy. The other one was a cat that kept like looking off down the hallway, and then you could see something like it looked human like, but it was like really narrow, and I don't know, it looked like a can shape, but you could see like reflective eyes, and like the hands came. It was just freaking weird. But yeah, so a lot of animals were reacting to that, and I would definitely say that they are far more aware of things than we are. So long story.
I've mentioned before with my Belgian Malinois Rex, when I lived in the Minersville house by myself, and I had the sofa in the living room where I would lay my head was against the door, looking down the hallway towards your old room, so I couldn't see the hallway when I lay down.
I remember when we lived there, I could never understand how and why you would lay with your head on that end.
Because if I don't see it, it's not there.
Oh God.
But yeah. I would lay there, and I had the TV where you and I used to have it, so I'd be laying looking across the room. So like I'd lay this way so I couldn't see anything over here. He would come up and lay on my chest. Now this is a Belgian Malinois. For anybody who's familiar with what they are, it was a patrol dog.
Yeah, big dog.
It was mean and crazy. He would lay on my chest, hold me down, and start growling, looking down the hallway. and just like he would push me down like he was protecting me. And his teeth, I mean, he was nuts to start with, but he would start snarl and the teeth would come out, and he'd just be staring at a spot somewhere down that hall. I would never get up and look.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, if I don't see it, it ain't there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he used to do that. So yeah, they're definitely, I would say, more susceptible or more aware of things like that. Now you also got to think, like with Cindy's question there, think about like witch mythology, evil sorcery, animals, vampires turning into bats and wolves, witches always having animal familiars.
Turning into cats.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily that they're, entering, but yes, definitely some kind of control. I would,
they would do the bidding.
Yeah, I would lead to believe there's some kind of connection to certain animals and, evil.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about what took place, I would say to her point, something was swaying them or controlling them to do what they were trained not to do. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. So now we had talked about planes. Les, you want to talk about another plane incident there?
Yes. Speaking of planes, as you said, the aforementioned lightning strike was not the only first plane-related tragedy connected to The Omen's filming. The planned filming of an action scene for The Omen was delayed, and this meant that Peck was not needed on the set. So a private jet that the crew was going to charter to bring Peck back was not necessary. So the plane they had intended to book hit a flock of birds and crashed, killing everyone on board. So while that was tragic enough, the plane struck a car driving along the road as it came crashing down, killing. And I'm not laughing, but because of what happened, I'm laughing because it's just so freaking crazy. It killed everyone in the car. So everybody in the plane, everybody in the car.
And the people in the car were
the wife and two children of the plane's pilot. Jesus, you can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this up.
Yeah. I mean, you have so many plane related issues, and then the pilot, hits a flock of birds, they're crashing, and not only does he die, but then the car he hits just, randomly happens to be the car his wife is driving away from, dropping him off at the airport.
With his children, their children.
With their children in the car, yeah. A random routine flight.
And it wasn't even supposed to be that flight, right? It was supposed to be a different flight, but it was delayed. So they go on this private jet, which they weren't intended to be on. Just, again, too many random events that just are not coincidence. But another tragic situation regarding the plane, the team was to use for an aerial shot. In a last-minute change of plans, the aircraft they were slated to fly was switched out, and the Omen's original aircraft was used by a group of businessmen instead, and all of whom were killed when the plane crashed immediately after taking off.
Yeah, this whole, if I was part of this movie, the last thing I'd ever do is get on an airplane, ever.
Right. I mean, I don't even think I'd get in a car too, because it'd be your luck that, that was the plane you're supposed to be on. Takes you out.
Yeah. So now, at the time of filming in London, they were under a rash of explosions that were set by the IRA, which at the time was not uncommon. But again, there's incidences that tie to this movie. Mm-hmm. Mace Newfield, who was probably already on edge from his plane being struck by lightning, was planning to eat at a nearby restaurant, but there was no seats available because it was gutted by a bomb.
What?
Yeah, it was the restaurant he had had made reservations at before he got there was gutted by an explosion.
Oh my God.
The day after filming, the hotel that director Richard Donner had stayed in was also bombed.
My God.
So you have multiple people, airplane related lightning issues, 2 bombings that just happen to be connected to the filming of the movie.
Jesus.
Yeah. So now I'd say this is probably the most tragic event tied to the curse. And you had mentioned earlier when we started this section about Liz Moore, and she was an assistant to John Richardson, who was the special effects designer for the film.
Mm-hmm.
The pair were driving through the Netherlands, and along the way, they're involved in this horrific car accident.
Mm-hmm.
Richardson escapes with minor injuries, but Moore was decapitated by a tire that smashed into the car. Which is a parallel to a death in the movie itself. In one scene, a photographer who's helping Richard Thorne, who is Gregory Peck, research Damien's origins. The character's name was Keith Jennings, played by David Warner, is killed when he's decapitated by a sheet of glass falling off a construction vehicle while driving.
I remember that scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you want to make this horrific death even creepier. This occurred on August 13th, 1976, right?
Okay. Yep.
It was Friday the 13th. They, while driving, had just passed a sign that said the town of Omen, 66 kilometers. Well,
66 point.
Where that sign is actually 66.6 kilometers from the town of Omen.
That is creepy. So you have right there, you have 2 historically known numerological associations to, dark entities or dark spirits or just bad omens.
Mm-hmm.
That is weird.
So, yeah. So now they created a documentary in around 2005 about the curse of the Omen. The producer, Alan Tyler, confessed that 2 different film crews in 2 different locations have the exact same technical difficulties with footage they filmed.
Weird.
Okay. Then go to 2006, the remake of the film. Okay, so now not just the original, but the remake has 2 separate instances. The first befell an actor, Peter Poswaite, brother.
Yeah, that's
died.
a weird name.
Yeah, you'd think somebody in Hollywood or anywhere that's an actor would shorten that to something like Post.
Yeah, right. Pete Post.
Yeah. He died. His brother dies unexpectedly after being dealt 3 sixes in a poker game.
Oh, okay. That is, again, bizarre.
Mm-hmm. The second incident saw footage of the scene where actor Liev Schreiber finds the devil's birthmark on Damien, which is some 13,500 feet of film, gets destroyed inexplicably during the processing of it.
Wow. Yeah, that is a massive amount of film to have get screwed up.
Well, also, it's during the processing. These are people who do this for a profession. How often do you think they lose 13,500 feet of film?
Probably never.
Yeah. But also just happens to be the part where he finds the birthmark.
Yeah.
The 666 or whatever that it is in the movie.
Man, I want to watch this movie again.
Okay. Well, good news.
Okay.
There's a new movie that'll hit theaters April 5th, 2024, called The First Omen. It's a prequel to the original. Also, if you would like to watch the original Omen, it is currently streaming on Hulu.
I'm going to have to check that out. Man, like you literally cannot make this stuff up. And it's fact.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, my logical brain wants to say, oh, this is all coincidence.
Yeah.
But like you said, the odds of getting struck, like a lightning strike, hitting a plane is probably one in a million. Right? Happens 4 times, well, 3 times in 3 planes involved in people in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lightning strike on the ground during filming almost hits one of the producers of the movie. People, animals, strange reaction, like, oh yeah,
highly trained animals.
All of a sudden have a weird reaction, which, hey, I've seen dogs do some dumb shit.
Yeah.
That are well trained. I've seen them do some dumb shit. I'm sure baboons are probably not the easiest things to train.
Probably not. No.
But like the lions that end up killing the zookeeper who worked with these lions for years and they never had these issues.
Yeah.
You know, you have footage being destroyed. The horrific death of, 66.6 miles outside of the town of Omen.
Yeah.
Somebody involved in the film is beheaded, decapitated.
Oh,
which is similar to a scene from the movie.
That's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, also, like,
and again, 3 6s in a poker game, the dude dies.
Yeah. Friday the 13th. Yeah.
Again, another supposed unlucky number.
If you want to go back slightly before filming starts, Gregory Peck's son commits suicide.
Mm.
The airplanes, the pilot hits the birds and then crashes and kills his own kids and wife.
God, oh my God.
The other plane, being used that gets switched off to businessmen taking the plane instead of the film crew,
and they all
crashes, like doesn't even lift off the ground, they die. How many deaths can you just attribute to this one movie?
Right.
And not even just that.
And just the sheer subject of it, of the movie. You know what I mean? It's like the son of Satan, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. This is just, it's too much. And the fact that all these movies that have this correlation to evil, darkness, supernatural. I mean, like Poltergeist is one of the most, malevolent spirits, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they're most dangerous and physical, spiritual phenomenon, if you will. And then again, the Omen, talking about the son of Satan, just the worst biblical character out there. It's just, what is it? You know what I mean? Is it just? And I think Cindy had mentioned it before. Is it almost like the subject matter is creating a manifestation of all this, or is it just like you speak about the devil will come,
Speak of the devil appears. Looking for someone, been looking for years.
And I'm
camera. Chris Isaac.
Uh-huh.
Good, very good live performance. If you ever get a chance to go see Chris Isaac, folks, it's well worth it. In fact, first concert I ever took my daughter to was Chris
Oh,
Isaac
really?
and the Wallflowers. Oh yeah,
Nice, nice.
Music Fest. First, I think it was the first concert my wife went to too.
I think I was actually at that one, to be honest with you. That at Music Fest?
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably didn't see each other, but probably could have, you know.
Yeah, it was a great show.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
I think it's too many things to be coincidence.
Right.
Like there's two. I mean, yeah, okay. Like I said, my logical brain wants to write it all off as random happenstance. You know, things happen, but these are things that I'm sure if we took 20 airline pilots who flew, say, transcontinental from the United States to England, Europe, back and forth.
Yeah.
Probably all of them will say, yeah, our plane was hit by lightning, you know, on this date. Okay. But I'm sure not many of them can say, oh, twice the plane I was either flying on co-piloting or part of just travel was, you know, then all of a sudden you got 3 people involved in a movie whose planes get hit by lightning, several plane crashes, you know, not even like the IRA bombings. Now, of course, this was during, you know, that time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bombings, but you start to throw like, hey, I was about to go there and the place got, you know, had a bomb go off in it. The guy leaves the hotel the next day and the bomb goes off in the hotel.
Yeah.
You know, too many random coincidences to be coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe you'd have that much stuff go on and not have some outside force acting upon it.
Well, that's kind of to my point before. Like what do you think? Do you think like there is some sort of a supernatural conjuring, for lack of better terms, that would be associated to films like this? Like,
well,
it seems that way. You know what I mean? Like,
I would go with what you said. Like, you speak of the devil, it's going to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
that's quite literally with The Omen.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that's the thing. Like you were saying, the subject matter. Well, the subject matter is the birth of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
The devil probably would want to be known, like be part of this, be some way connected to it. You know, I would say, yeah, I'd say there's something. It's either drawing the energy. Now, I'm not saying, you know, necessarily it's the devil,
Yeah.
but it's drawing negative energy, negative spirits into its, you know, vortex, and it's creating something that's
For sure.
you know, evil.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's freaking crazy. Well, we are right at the top of the hour, or the bottom of the hour. What do you call it when you're like your time's up? The bottom of the hour, top of the hour, bottom? I don't know. Show's almost over.
Yeah.
But we do have another movie to talk about, and I say we just talk about it.
Oh,
We're
I
gonna
think we
run over
have to. I saved this one for last.
Yes. So
let me grab a sip of water before I get into this one.
Yeah. So we covered the Poltergeist in the first third of the show. The second third was The Omen, and now we're going to talk about
Rosemary's Baby.
That's right.
So the original Rosemary's Baby stars Mia Farrow as a young wife living in Manhattan who becomes pregnant but soon begins to expect the elderly neighbors are a member of a satanic cult who are grooming her in order to use her baby for rituals. So we got to get in. We have to go back before Rosemary's Baby is even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ira 11, whose baby was due June 1966.
Mm-hmm.
started to have the number 666 just constantly rolling around in his head, seeing it in, at different things he would just happen to come across 666. So it started
Yeah.
to basically form an outline for his new book. But he was very apprehensive about writing the book about, a young soon to be mother in a cult that had plans for her child.
Yeah.
But he goes along with it, he's a writer. He's got this story idea. He wants to flesh it out. Well, he fleshes it out. The book gets rave reviews, quickly optioned into a movie, like super fast. The book's released. It's within I think it was like within 2 years, it's already optioned to be a movie.
Yeah.
So now him and his wife, they soon divorce. And of course, this being a book about, a satanic cult, the movie is denounced, the book is denounced by the Catholic Church. Ira himself is considered one of the faces of evil, and even gets to the point where he blames himself a lot for the rise of the satanic religion and occult practices, like the satanic panic. He feels he's one of the people who kind of
jump-started that.
Yeah, kind of brought it forefront and got it going, even though it wasn't his intent.
It's a pretty heavy weight to put on your shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you wrote a book.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. People, well, it happens a lot, though.
Yeah.
It does happen a lot with books. The guy who wrote Fight Club, his movie has been adopted by a group of people as a mantra for life, and they're not exactly great people. Well, they're not great people. They're not. Don't put not exactly. They're not. But he's taken a lot of that onto himself. But when you start making something popular, back like skateboarding movies in the late 80s, early 90s.
Gleaming the Cube.
Gleaming the Cube. Yeah. What was it? Rad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
BMX bike movie or something like that.
And Airborne with the rollerbladers.
Yeah. All of a sudden, everybody's a skater. Everybody's riding BMX bikes. Everybody's, rollerblading, like aggressive inline skating. So he's kind of at that, was it all him? No. Were these people out there thinking these things prior? Probably some of them. Because, I mean, satanic cults have been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So did it maybe bring it back to the forefront, make it a little more socially acceptable? People weren't as, let's burn the witch, in that time frame,
But still created the panic, like you said, the satanic panic.
It started to help. Yeah, it helped the snowball that was probably already rolling down the hill gain traction and speed.
Yeah, for sure.
So now while filming, there was no real issues while filming the movie, right? Robert Evans, who I believe was the producer or director, had this like strange feeling when he'd enter the apartment complex where the movie was filmed. And, always had this like creepy kind of vibe to him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But nothing major, right? So 1 year after the film is released, the film's composer falls off a cliff and is in a coma for 4 months before he dies.
Jesus.
Which, if anybody remembers the movie, is the same fate as Rosemary's Friend is cursed with by the witches in the story.
Weird.
So another one of these things where people fall off cliffs all the time, people get in car accidents all the time, but when the movie that you're part of shows that death, and then all of a sudden somebody associated with the movie suffers the same fate,
Yeah, well, this is the second horror movie with a mirrored scene to real life kind of situation.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, he was a foreign gentleman, I think from like Sweden or somewhere Scandinavian. When I was writing my notes, I completely blew past his actual name.
Mhm.
So he was the composer for, I believe, the film scores and all that. Now you go to William Castle, who was a famous horror director from the 50s and 60s. Or film producer. And he's originally slated to be the producer. And of course, he starts, as soon as he signs on to this project, he starts getting tons of hate mail daily from people saying, this is horrible. You shouldn't do this. You know, well, he ends up developing kidney stones. Okay. Now, everybody who's had a kidney stone knows it's very painful and all that. And there's different ways of treating them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his treatment chosen was surgery. So while he was in the hospital, he started to hallucinate. At different points, he would just start hallucinating.
Jeez.
During his surgery on his kidney stones, he woke up, yelled out the following line: "Rosemary, for God's sakes, drop that knife," which is a line from the book. Woke up from anesthesia, yells this out, line from the book, falls back down, goes right back to sleep.
That is bizarre.
Now, I have woken up while under anesthesia. My family, for some reason, it takes like enough to put an elephant to sleep twice to put us completely under.
Jesus.
I woke up during my knee surgery.
Oh God.
Thank God they didn't have it open yet, but they grabbed the sheets to move you on to the operating table. The nurses, they start to grab. I reached up and grabbed the nurse and started shaking her.
Jesus.
Went back out. Don't remember. I wake up and I'm like, I looked at my dad. I'm like, did I happen to grab one of the nurses when they were like moving me? He's like, yeah, you did. You probably want to apologize.
Oh my gosh. Well, how would you know?
Well,
you know what I mean? You were still
nurse,
loopy, yeah.
Yeah, the nurse was sweet about it. She's like, honey, you didn't know what you were doing. I was like, no, but I'm really sorry. Because I mean, I was 245 pounds. This little nurse is probably like $110. And she wasn't young, so I was probably giving her a good shaking. But so yeah, I mean, he woke up during surgery, which like I said, I've actually done it myself where I was under. They moved me and were putting me onto the table and I woke up. But he woke up and yelled out in one of the lines from the book.
Yeah.
So evidently the book was playing in his head during
while he was under. Yeah. Oh, man.
So now one of the more tragic parts of this story will focus on the late Sharon Tate. I'm going to tie this all into a big bow by the end of this, but Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate are married, right?
Yep.
Sharon Tate wanted to play Rosemary in the movie. Roman was I believe the director for the movie. The studio decided against Sharon playing the role and they chose Mia Farrow. Now, Tate does appear as an extra in the movie. Now, of course, people allege that at this point, Tate starts to become or starts to develop an interest in the occult. This has never been confirmed. This is, of course, people allege there were some photos that were attributed to her being part of occult practices, but when you actually look at the photos, they're from a movie she was in.
Yeah.
It was stills from a movie. People, started to say, oh, well, this wasn't a movie. This was on, something she was doing that somebody just happened to photo. No, it's from a movie.
Yeah.
So in 1969, Roman is heading to London to film a movie. Before he leaves, he has this like vision or thought pop into his head.
Mm-hmm.
After seeing like Sharon walks out of a room, and he has this thing pop up where it says to him, "You'll never see her alive again." But of course, now he's getting ready to fly. He blows it off as, she's pregnant. I'm nervous. I got to fly, to Europe, and, just travel jitters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the sad thing. Sharon Tate is murdered along with a few of her friends within a couple days. Now, the murders were perpetrated by the group that's known as the Manson family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The night after the Sharon Tate's murder, the Manson family goes on to kill the LaBianca family in their home. At both scenes, the words Helter Skelter and Piggies are written in the victim's blood on the walls. Okay. Manson, not even a human being, just a pile of shit and scumbag, and all these people that worship him are slightly special in my book.
Yeah.
Manson thought the Helter Skelter was a message from the Beatles to kick off a race war. This, Manson's, if people who have ever researched Manson, a great book if you ever want to read about this whole time frame and some weird stuff that goes on around the Manson family. It's a book called Chaos, The Secret History of the 60s and the CIA. Great book. I actually recommend it to a lot of people, and they've all loved it. I've read it twice. I've given my nephew a copy of it. It's not about the Mansons or their sick beliefs. It's about things that may tie some of Manson's behavior to some government projects around that time, MK Ultra and stuff like that. Very well researched book. It's not a book that tells you what to think. It just presents evidence. It presents your availability to go research it for yourself, find the documents that tie all these people together.
Yeah.
Okay. But enough on Manson. Now, Roman Polanski's life falls apart after this, right? He's arrested for drugging and molesting a young girl.
Jesus.
He only spends 42 days in prison, is allowed out, and flees the United States. Since then, he will not enter any country that has an extradition treaty with the U.S. He is still making movies. He has won Oscars in the last 10 years. He's never stood, he's never stood for his crimes. He's been able to stay in France and countries like that won't expedite him back here.
Jesus.
So that's, the Sharon Tate part of this, but there's some conspiracy now that involve, like I said, this is all going to tie up in a big bow by the time I'm done. Were the Beatles involved in satanic rituals? Or did Roman himself sacrifice his wife to have a hit movie?
What do you mean? Like, he offered her up? So, by giving her up,
you have a hit movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So, the White Album contains Helter Skelter songs titled Helter Skelter and Pigs, which were written and recorded with Mia Farrow present, who played in Rosemary's Baby. Okay. So like I said, this is all going to tie up. Of course, the Beatles denounce the murders, the implications that their song is some kind of, secret message.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Lennon is quoted as saying, all that Manson stuff was built around George's song, Pigs, and Paul's song, Helter Skelter, about an English fairground. It had nothing to do with anything, and at least of all, anything to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fast forward 11 years. John Lennon and Yoko Ono are living in the Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For 3 months, Mark David Chapman was planning on murdering John Lennon. Okay. They, to the point on the night that he does murder Lennon, he's in a picture getting an autograph from John Lennon earlier in the night.
Jeez.
It's you can find it online. It is a real picture. Like it's not doctored in any way. No, I mean the original isn't. There might be doctored images with Bigfoot and Jesus in the background. Who knows? So on December 8th, 1980, Chapman asked Lennon for an autograph as he and Yoko are heading out for the evening. I believe they were heading to a recording session.
Mm-hmm.
So later that evening, around 10:50 p.m., Lennon and Yoko return to the Dakota. Chapman shoots Lennon twice in the back and twice in the shoulder. After that, Chapman just goes, sits down, and waits for the police to show up. Okay. So allegedly, while waiting to considering if he should finally do this and kill Lennon, Chapman saw Mia Farrow walk by. Took it as a sign to commit the murders. Or, well, the murder.
Yeah.
Okay. So remember, they're living in the Dakota, right? I said that?
Mm-hmm.
The Dakota is where Rosemary's Baby was. The same building that Robert Evans had those weird feelings at while filming Rosemary's Baby. The building itself has a history of hauntings and paranormal events. Lennon himself reported seeing a ghost of a woman walking the hallways and crying, which was corroborated by several workers in the building who had also seen the same spirit doing the same thing dating back to the 1960s.
Holy shit.
Lennon himself also claims to have seen a UFO while looking out the windows of the Dakota, out of his apartment or his house, his living area in the Dakota.
Wow.
Yoko claimed that after John was murdered, she saw him and even spoke to him in their apartment. Now, many of the Dakota's famous residents have also died at an early age. Now, they didn't necessarily die in the Dakota, but they died early. So,
yeah,
give you just 3. Okay. Marilyn Monroe dies at 36 of barbiturate overdose. Judy Garland, who lived at the Dakota at one point, dies at 47 of a self-overdose of barbiturates. And Judy Holliday dies at 43 of breast cancer. So now the question is it the movie or is it the building? The movie's filmed in the building. The building already has a history of paranormal, strange events, people dying young.
Yeah.
You know, it's an old building. So you start to tie all this together. You have Mia Farrow who's in the movie, Mia Farrow who's present when the White Album is written and recorded. Mark David Chapman claims to have seen Mia Farrow. You know,
or is it Mia Farrow?
Could be. Because, I mean, then you have Sharon Tate's murder. Sharon Tate's also in the movie, wanted to play the part Mia Farrow got. I'm sure if Roman was the director, you know, of the movie, I'm sure he introduced his wife. They were probably friendly. You know, basically, I blame John Lennon. if he vetoes those 2 songs going on the White Album, we don't have all this. We just have a really good movie with some scary coincidences that tie to it.
I don't know. I kind of thinking it could be the building, like you said. It's just maybe it was the building kind of calling out, like when the dude had his first walkthrough, like you said, when he was more or less like scouting out the building and whatnot, and had that kind of creepy vibe. And it's almost like the building, him going in there is the building's way of kind of acknowledging the film and what was to go on. Excuse me. And it almost like pieced together all those parts with its occupants, and I don't know, it's just kind of very bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, the building could have its own bad, energy to it.
Yeah.
Again, it's another movie about the devil,
Mm-hmm.
satanic stuff. Again, it's, you call it in, it comes.
Yeah.
So, but I just like to blame, the Beatles. Because everybody knows.
I can't say it's the Beatles. The Beatles are phenomenal.
Well, see, that's the thing. You're a Beatles fan. I'm a Stones fan.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I like the Stones too, but
Oh
the
yeah,
Beatles, the Beatles have a personal connection because of my dad. Because I learned how to play guitar with my dad teaching me Beatles songs. So
yeah. The Beatles have some good songs. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love the Sgt. Pepper's album. I mean,
that whole album's great.
Which also has tons of crazy conspiracies around it too. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I mean, when you get down to the Dakota, it's like bits and pieces all tie back to the movie, but they also all tie back to the building.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind going and checking out the Dakota someday. Just, snooping around.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it still has the same level of celebrity occupants. Because if it does, I don't think we'd get anywhere near it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know like much about who would be living in there now. I'm sure there's still famous people that live in it. Like it's still kind of a New York City landmark, and I'm sure it was, like I said, it was or is, a relatively famous spot to live. So I'm sure you'd still have a higher end clientele to it, famous people.
I don't know. But what I do know is that concludes the last of the topics for tonight's show. We covered The Poltergeist, The Omen, and Rosemary's Baby. All 3 films that held some sort of very creepy, very dark paranormal kind of connection that really made these movies stand out. And again, like we did mention before, there were some other movies that have curses and bad juju kind of tied to them and whatnot, but these 3 in particular are ones that we wanted to cover tonight that just, there's too many things that went on that make it coincidental. There's something more sinister, more higher level, different plane kind of thing going on that just kind of really is bizarre. And to go back to your question there, Chad, about the Dakota, I'd almost be afraid to go in there, and I'd be almost afraid that something would attach itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, Maury Povich lives there nowadays.
Oh, really?
And Connie.
Yeah, no, in our luck, we'd go in there and be like, You guys are the fathers of these illegitimate children. The test results are in. That was a little bit more of a Larry King impersonation than Maury Povich, but you know what I mean.
It was close. It was pretty deep.
Yeah, pretty close. But all right. So that said, that was the show for tonight. Chad, thank you so much for putting all this together. This was awesome. I was really excited about this show, and I hope everybody who is tuning in, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Andy, thank you for all your questions, and it's good to see Matt Hummel joined in there. It's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, so thank you all very much. And if you don't mind doing us a favor, share this show, tell your friends about it. We're really trying to find ways to gain more following, gain more followers and viewers and
subscribers,
build up our page. Yeah, subscribers to our channel on YouTube, followers on our Facebook page. We actually just got a comment posted on one of our past shows about how people don't understand why we don't have more subscribers and followers. That's a question Chad and I ask ourselves all the time when we talk. What are we doing wrong? What do we need to do? So I always found that in the past, word of mouth is worth its weight in gold. So please, anybody listening, share the show, tell your friends about us, like, subscribe, share, follow, do all that stuff on our media outlets. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you do listen to our archive shows, like I said, we're on Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Just search Explorers Seekers of the Truth. Find us, rate us, give us a 5-star review, please, so we can start ranking and just get out there more. Because the more traffic we have on those podcast platforms, the more they're going to push us to the forefront, and more people are going to find us, and we could only get there with your help. So again, we just ask that you guys do that for us, and thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Chad, thank you for putting the show together tonight and always being here with me, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And also, if you are a member of our Facebook group, feel free to share and comment on stuff on there too. There's so much cool stuff out there, and we don't necessarily have all tons of time to scroll through stuff, but if you see something cool, send it to us. We'll take a look at it. Maybe it's something we could talk about on the show, or just have a good lively chat on the in the comment section sometimes on some of those articles and stuff. I mean,
or any topics that you guys find that you think we should talk about, share it, or DM us or whatever, PM, DM, whatever it's called now. And actually, April has a good point there. Hi, April. Thank you for tuning in. She says there aren't alerts on reminders on Facebook anymore. Well, I do know that there are reminders and alerts on YouTube. So follow us on both places. You'll get a reminder from YouTube, and then you can watch us on either platform you prefer. Like I said in the beginning, you could comment under YouTube, the show on YouTube, the show on Facebook. We'll see it on the back end in our interface, and we'll be able to interact like we did tonight with especially Cindy. She's always throwing good stuff out there. So, and she got the live reminder, but it was probably from YouTube. Yep. So go to both of them, subscribe, hit the notifications, or ring the bell, whatever the hell people say anymore. But anyways, I'm drawing this out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chad. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and we'll let you know later on what our next topic is. We'll let you know on Facebook and YouTube. So good night, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.